Hi, my name is Michael Foley. I'm a certified financial planner and student loan professional with North Star Resource Group, and want to take some time today to talk a little bit about the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. There's a lot of stuff coming out on the news on this program, and a lot of people could qualify for it. So, I want to make sure that we have an understanding of how it works, how to enroll, and just some things to be thinking about in order if you're looking at getting enrolled in this program. Let's start off with how do you qualify for the program? So there's really three steps that you need to hit. You need to hit all three in order to make sure that you're qualifying for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So you have to have the right types of loans, you got to be in the right repayment plan, and you got to be working at the right employer for 120 months. It doesn't need to be consecutive. So let's break those down. So we got to have the right types of loans. So what does that mean? So there's a lot of different types of federal student loans out there. But it needs to be a direct student loan, a direct subsidized, direct unsubsidized, direct Stafford, direct grad plus. As long as it has the word direct in front of it, you're good to go. So we just want to look out for any loans that are called Perkins loans, or some of our clients have federal family education loans, or that FFEL at the beginning of it. If you do have any of those, we may need to consolidate those to get those eligible for the PSLF program. And they do allow you to consolidate into the direct loan program, but we just got to be cognizant that it doesn't interrupt anything else that you have with any other direct loans before you just go and consolidate those. But we got to have a direct loan in order to be eligible for that program. They set up these other programs like the Federal Family Education Loan Program. Actually, even oftentimes before the Department of Ed was even funding their own loans, and so they can't forgive somebody else's money. So that's why we need to make sure that it's directly to the Department of Ed, because they're the ones who are actually funding the forgiveness for this. Okay. Now let's talk about the right repayment plan. So we know that we have to have direct loans, but now we got to make sure that we're in the right repayment plan. And so a lot of people think for some reason that the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program is a repayment plan in and of itself. And it's not. It's just a program that if you hit these three criteria, you can qualify for. But the second option that you have to be eligible for being in a repayment plan that's called an income-driven repayment plan. So under that umbrella of the income-driven repayment plans, we have SAVE plan, SAVE, Saving on a Valuable Education. We have the pay-as-you-earn, and we have the income-based repayment. So there are a couple other ones like the income contingent and ISR and those ones as well. A lot less common, but the big three that we see oftentimes are the SAVE plan, which used to be called Repay, the pay-as-you-earn or Pay, and IBR. So you got to be on one of those in order to be eligible. So there have been some ways that if you were on the wrong repayment plans in the past, during the COVID regulations, they actually allow you to retroactively get credit for those. But moving forward now, we have to be on one of the income-driven repayment plans in order to be eligible for the PSLF program, okay? So now we got to make sure that we're working at the right employer for 120 months. So like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't need to be consecutive, but we need to make sure that we're working at the right employer, which can be any sort of nonprofit, 501c3, government organization, university, the military, or whatnot. There's a lot of programs that qualify and a lot of employers that qualify, but you just got to make sure that you get the tax ID number for whoever's paying your paycheck. And you can run that in the studentaid.gov's PSLF help tool, and you can actually check to make sure 100% is your employer going to qualify or not. They'll tell you right on their site. So we just got to be cognizant that there are some employers that may present as if they might be eligible, but then when you run it into the program, they're not. So we just got to be very, very conscious of whoever's paying your paycheck. So after July of 2023, there have been some changes in regulation for Texas and for California. So a lot of our physician clients in those states, sometimes were actually prevented by state law to even enroll, to be actually employed by the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Organization or that nonprofit, and instead had to have a separate entity that was a business that was contracted with the hospital. Because the hospital itself couldn't employ people or employ physicians, they had to have a subsidiary at a private practice that was directly contracted with them. And so if you fall in one of those two states, they're actually allowing you to get your PSLF form signed off on and approved by that nonprofit hospital system that you are working at. So that's a new regulation that comes out, and we have gotten lots of questions about other people in other states that, we see it very commonly in the emergency medicine space, where there's a lot, maybe there's a private practice that directly contracts with one hospital. But if you're not in California or in Texas, we can't do it just yet. But there is some legislation going through that may change that coming down the pike here. Okay. So now we know how we can qualify. We got to have the right types of loans. We got to have direct loans. We got to be in the right repayment plans. Got to be one of the income-driven repayment plans, and we got to be working at the right employer for 120 months. And one last thing to add on that is it does have to be full-time or at least 30 hours per week at that employer. And you actually do have to be working all the way up until you do get forgiveness. So a lot of people might be part-time when they're going to going to fill out their application. You're going to have to go back over 30 hours per week if you still want to get the forgiveness past that point. Okay. So now we know how to qualify, but now how do we enroll in it? So it's a very straightforward system now. It was a lot more complicated back even just several months ago. But now they have this great PSLF help tool. It's on studentaid.gov, and you can go on there, and it's very intuitive. All you need is your start date at whenever you worked at all of your different employers, and you need their tax ID number. So that's called their EIN number for any of the institutions that you worked at. And so if you don't know where to find that, reach out to your HR, or you can even look on your W-2, your tax form, and it should list your EIN, the EIN number for your organization as well. So you just need those two components, and then encourage you to have the email address for an HR contact, because when you go through that, you'll have to fill out the application. It's just a few questions that you'll answer. And then just denote that you're working over 30 hours per week, that you're not to the 120 months yet. We just want to get enrolled in it. And then you'll sign it. You can e-sign it now. And then you need to send that to HR. And so you need that HR contact, and it'll send an email for them to electronically sign it as well. So then once they sign it, the Department of Ed will gather that application and send it over to the loan servicer called MOHELA. So MOHELA is one of the 8 or 9 federal loan servicers that their additional duty outside of just servicing people's federal loans. Their subset is the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So anybody who wants to be on the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program is going to eventually be routed to MOHELA. The reason being is that they have the technology platform to actually count to see how many months are you on track all the way up to the 120 months. So they have a great tracker on there. They call it their payment tracker. So once your loans get moved over there, then you get the forms uploaded every so often, then you'll be able to see how close are you to forgiveness, which is really nice. So their system is great. Now, if you are currently with another loan servicer, so you might be with a Nelnet or an Ed Financial, Aidvantage, maybe you're with a different loan servicer and you want to enroll, you just still need to go on to the student aid, fill out the PSLF help tool, have your employer sign off on that. They will send that application over to MOHELA, and then it's going to take forever for them to pull your loans over, but that's okay. So as soon as they process your application with MOHELA, you'll actually be able to create an account using your social security number on MOHELA's site directly. So once you can get on there, you can track your PSLF application, see if it's been processed. And then once they do pull your loans over, MOHELA will be your new point of contact for your loans moving forward. But we need to make sure that you're making your payments and everything, staying on that income-driven repayment plan. Everything is status quo with the other loan servicer. So, but don't worry if it takes a long time, because the only thing, you can still be getting credit, because one of the prerequisites for the PSLF program is not that you have to be at MOHELA, right? It's that you have to have the right types of loans, the right repayment plan, and be working at the right employer for 120 months. So they can backdate and retroactively give credit to you even if you were at a different loan servicer. So no stress, but we do want to make sure that you do eventually get all of your loans moved over to Mohila. Okay. Now, let's talk about some other things to think about with this PSLF program, because when you look at some of these numbers and you look at how much forgiveness we could potentially get for many of our clients, it's pretty astounding. And it's really easy to just say, all right, this is the no-brainer path. Let's just put all of our eggs in that basket. But we have to look at a couple different things. But when we're looking at the holistic view of this program, the goal is to pay the least amount possible to get the most loans forgiven at the end of the 10 years. So that goes against every ounce of your being when it comes to debt repayment, because effectively in some payment plans, we're helping our clients to accrue more interest because we want to have them have a lower payment in order to get more forgiveness at the end of the day. So we got to remember that this is a game that we got to play. And so traditional debt philosophy and understanding around that kind of goes out the window a little bit when we're playing this game, but doesn't mean that we don't want a backup plan, okay? So when we're talking about income reporting, considering which income we are reporting is really important. And, maybe we'll spend another session talking about the different ways that you can report your income. But for many of our clients going through a transition in income, it's really important that we get in the habit of reporting based off of our tax return. And if we can do that, you have the ability to report off of your most recently completed tax return, as long as it's been within 2 years. So if we kind of play the game right, we might have, let's say, a resident going through into becoming an attending. When you actually hit your first year of becoming an attending, we might be able to report off of your year of being in residency. And then the next year we can look back, and then you'll have a transition year of maybe half a year of resident income, half a year of attending income. So we'll have a split year there. And then the third year out, we're going to have to actually report your full attending income. So what did that do? That just all of a sudden gave us 2 more years while you're actually earning an attending salary. We're reporting and making payments based off of an artificially low payment. So that's one strategy that we can look at to really extend how long we can report off of the lowest income possible, so we can get the maximum amount of forgiveness through this program, okay? But, when we're looking at this too, we want to make sure we have backup plans. So having an investment hedge is going to give you a lot of peace of mind with this, so that we can know, hey, let's play the game. There's a good outlet. This is a good case for us. We have potential for a great outcome here. Let's play the game, go through that. However, let's not take that as a permission pass to just spend more money, right? Let's keep that same sentiment. We see a lot of residents say, hey, I want to just keep living like a resident and pay my loans off. Keep that same sentiment, but just don't put it towards your student loans. Maybe put it towards an investment account on the side, so that when we get to the end of the 10th year, ideally we have that same amount that we're expecting to get forgiven. Ideally we have that same amount in an investment account. So at the end of the 10th year, if it all blows up and maybe we get a new administration and the whole thing goes away, which I don't think is going to happen, but if it were, we're not caught in a bad spot in the future. So we can take that and just pay off the loans. But if we don't build that hedge, and then we get to the 10th year and we've rode this game for 10 years, and you get to the end and then they don't forgive you at the end, if we don't have that investment hedge, that's not going to be a good spot, because then all we've done in playing the game is effectively help you accrue more interest, and then we're starting from square one at the 10th year, which is not a good spot. So make sure that we're playing this game appropriately, but building some backup hedges, okay? Now, the last thing that we see very commonly in the realm of the public service loan forgiveness program is a lot of people making career decisions around this program specifically. Add this to your pros and cons list, but this should not be the fulcrum by which you make your decision of where you're going to work in your career. This is a program that is run by Congress, and this can be changed at any point. Like I said, do we think that they're going to do away with the whole program? No. But can they? Yes, right? And so we don't want to be sacrificing all of your years of hard work into working maybe at a place that you shouldn't be working maybe for your career. And we want to make sure that you're putting yourself in a position to continuing to better what you're needing to be doing in your career. The PSLF program should be ancillary to that, and it could be a big component to really help drive that. However, again, we don't want to take it as a permission pass to just spend less money. Or oftentimes we even see people taking a salary that is less than another place that they really want to be working because it has the public service loan forgiveness program. But let's say, for example, we have, let's say an OBGYN that, maybe can be earning about 400,000 at a private practice, but chooses to work at a nonprofit hospital system and is making 300,000. So now there's $100,000 difference between their two options here. But the private practice doesn't have the PSLF program, but the nonprofit does have the PSLF program eligibility. Well, if you only have a couple 100,000 of loans outstanding, your break even there is only a couple years, right? And so maybe a little bit longer when you factor in taxes. But we got to remember, don't go make less money to try to get more loans forgiven. It's not a good science. The way that you get the most forgiveness is you make the least amount of money possible, but that's not a good recipe for the rest of your financial plan. So keep that in the back of your mind throughout. Okay. So hopefully this helps give you a little bit of an overview of the PSLF program, give you some things to think about. Hopefully, some next steps to enroll in that plan if that's appropriate for you. Doesn't hurt for you to get enrolled, even if you're not sure if you want to go this direction or not. Definitely something to be considering. So again, thanks so much for the time, and hope this is beneficial for you guys, and we'll hope to see you in the next session. Thanks so much.